Meantime, NewsNation political contributor Dr. Lauren Wright, political scientist at Princeton University, is with us. Thank you, as always. I want to start in the House. You've got Democrats now in the House meeting behind closed doors to talk about the president's ability to continue. How much influence do some of these party leaders have as Tom goes through some of the names?
They have quite a lot, but the problem is there's a couple of factions of Democrats and neither of them 100% line up with the base. There's Democrats who are understandably these really hard-nosed, ambitious politicians. And so they want to stick with Biden as long as possible because no matter what happens next, they want the support of the party's establishment. And then there are Democrats that are also making a very shrewd calculation and saying, well, hang on, voters saw with their own eyes the president's inability to articulate his own policies and describe a vision for the future and do a lot of more basic things, to be frank. And I don't want to alienate my voters that way. And so there's a real tension within the party. There's a lack of agreement about how to move forward, but perhaps every Democrat at some level realizes that the problem is extremely severe and there needs to be some kind of change.
And I just want to point folks' attention to what we're seeing on the screen. It looks a little chaotic, but it's a gaggle of reporters outside as House Democrats go into this meeting. So this is live images, and it's cameras kind of bouncing around, but they're getting ready to chat about all this. How about, Dr. Wright, the senators? What role is the Senate playing in all this and Senate leaders right now in the discussion?
I think the senators are the most important for, one part of that is that they represent an entire state. And so they have a much more acute political weather vane. They're much better representatives of what the country wants, of what it takes to win a statewide and a national race than our House members who represent these highly specific districts. It's also the Senate that President Biden spent his entire career in. And so that's where he has the deepest relationships. And those are the people he's really going to have to listen to when push comes to shove. So I, Marnie, have my eye on the senators in particular.
You know, I think it's interesting, right, to think about what the mindset may be from House Democrats and Senate Democrats as they have these discussions,
I think it's
right?
panic.
I mean, it's panic, and it's right. Like, who starts the discussion and how does that go? Boy, to be a fly on the wall in these conversations right now.
Well, you really have to convince Biden himself to step down. There's no path forward without that. And exactly who those people are and probably the deepest and longest relationships are the most important interpersonally. His family is going to be a huge part. But unless Biden himself decides he needs to step aside, there's no path forward before that virtual roll call they have in August the 7th. Not even the convention date is really when the decision needs to happen before that.
And I guess the question that Biden would have to ask is, can I win without congressional support? If I have this many people lining up telling me I need to step aside, do I have a path forward?
I mean, he might. The problem is then you're really making a decision to put yourself over the future of the party. And then it makes it very hard to win a national election because the entire message the Biden campaign has committed to is Trump's a threat to democracy and Trump's a liar. And so if Biden continues to forge this path forward of I'm doing it no matter what everyone thinks, he's already diluted those messages and made it very hard for himself. And he's made it really impossible for these down ballot races that really need the support of the top of the ticket.
Yeah, it comes down to party or person, and those are the conversations that are being had as we watch House Democrats walk into this meeting. I want to play a clip of this White House press briefing exchange because so many people who like the president but are really concerned about the debate performance and his mental acuity moving forward, his ability to lead, are wondering about how often he's met with a neurologist. It came up during this briefing. Let's listen to the exchange.
If it's not in the medical report, obviously it's not something that the president is dealing with. Well, I can tell you this. Just going back to Parkinson's for a little bit, so to give you some answers here, has the president been treated for Parkinson's? No. Is he being treated for Parkinson's? No, he's not. Is he taking medication for Parkinson's? No. So those are the things that I can give you full-blown answers on, but I'm not going to confirm a specialist, any specialist that comes to the White House out of privacy.
So it went back and forth and back and forth. Later in a letter, President Biden's doctor acknowledged that Dr. Kevin Kennard is an expert on Parkinson's, but that is not why he saw the president. Why wasn't the White House more forthcoming, and is that coming back now to bite them?
Yes, of course. And those are very fair, straightforward questions from reporters from a variety of networks who rarely speak with one voice. But the questions are just so obviously unanswered to Americans, and the damage has been done. You know, even if the letter was crystal clear and so convincing, even to the average person watching it, the fact that it appears increasingly like Biden's condition has been hidden from the public for many months or even years, that's all done. That damage is done. It's way too late. And most Americans, rather than dig through a medical report, however immediately public it was made, will see that exchange that you just played, Marnie, and say something is not right here. Someone's not telling the full story.
I know that Nancy Pelosi just walked into this closed-door meeting with Democrats. My final question to you, what does the next likely step look like as Democrats try to unite either around the president or against the president? We shall see. Is there a meeting between them and President Biden next, or do we expect to hear directly from them? If you were to predict what we may anticipate here in the next few hours, what would it be?
Probably a series of meetings, but someone like Nancy Pelosi, who is a numbers person, she can wrangle votes unlike anyone else. She can estimate support within her caucus more accurately than anyone else. Someone needs to bring the case to Biden that the majority of Democrats now are not on your side. And that's probably the next step, but I don't know how quickly that'll happen, Marnie.
Yeah, if in fact that is the case, but seeming likely. Dr. Lauren Wright, thank you as always. Appreciate you helping us wrap our heads around all this.